let's bring out the first one. The directors, starting with Joaquim Dos Santos.
Wow.
All right, you guys don't follow directions, but okay. Next up, small but mighty, Justin K. Thompson.
Thank you.
He's a troublemaker, but I love him so much. Academy Award nominee, Kemp Powers. And one of the producers of the movie. He's really good at his job. It's the mind, body, spirit of this operation. Ladies and gentlemen, Academy Award winner, Phil Lord.
Chris has COVID.
Boom.
That's a scoop.
Yeah. All right, that's it. Thanks. So let me start with Phil Lord's master plan. He really wanted one-on-one time here, so he got Chris sick, and now he's not here now. But we miss him very much. Let me start with the trio of directors. I feel like I've come up with this new analogy for you guys. I feel like you're Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and you're Scrooge. Like this is going to be like I like that whole like setup. It's DuckTales here.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'll start with you, Joaquim. Listen, I love. Everyone knows this. I talk about this often here. Directors don't just stand over people who are drawing. They direct movies, animated films. They are films, and we have to continue to remind the world of that. What did you find most difficult in taking on this ambitious project that is so beautiful and amazing?
Wow, I mean, it's a big question. There was a lot of tough stuff to do. I think, I come from TV, and I think one thing that was a learning sort of hurdle for me was in TV, you want to get people early. You want the first episode to really sink their teeth in and be excited. Episode 2, maybe kind of, but they're on for the entirety of the ride. With film, I mean, it's literally down to the pixel. Like, you don't have an opportunity to lose the audience even for a second. So everything is gone over with a fine-tooth comb, where I was like, this is good enough, right? And these guys were like, no, dude, it's not good enough. It's got to be better. So yeah, that was a big one.
Justin?
Yeah.
What did you find, I don't want to say fulfilling, but rewarding about having other directors with you on an endeavor? So did you feel a little bit of the pressure relieved about bringing this sequel, or was it actually worse because you all were working together as a team and you wanted to feel like you were doing your part?
That's a great question. Actually, it was kind of an amazing honor and a privilege to be surrounded by such good friends and incredible collaborators, actually, because it is such a daunting project to take on, and it took so many smart people to make it, and I am not a genius, so it was really amazing to have people who are as talented as my co-directors and bring their expertise and learn from them the whole time, and share my expertise with them and create something that was bigger in the end than all of us, I think, could have created by ourselves. And I think that was the joy of it.
Awesome. Kemp, you co-directed Soul, that won the Academy Award for Animated Feature. I also say this publicly. I don't think co-director is like a term. I don't know what that means as opposed to a director. You directed Soul. You also wrote One Night in Miami. You see hints of Spider-Verse in One Night in Miami and Soul. It's all part of that universe. It's
Shared universe.
Shared universe. What was so different about going? I mean, you did a year of live action and animation, and then now you got to sit just in the animated world for a little while. How did this differ from those other endeavors?
I mean, it's interesting because, I mean, coming from Pixar, which has a very like well-known system, you know, like the brain trust system, and the way that we operated, I like to tell people it was almost like every day was a brain trust. Like we had a built-in brain trust, which was the three of us, you know, and Phil and Chris and, you know, all of our leads, you know, all of whom are like really notable in their own right, and our incredible editor, Mike Andrews. But like sitting in edit was kind of like a brain trust session, almost like every day, working on it. I mean, animation innately is an iterative process where, you know, you're encouraged to blow things up. That's how it was at Pixar, and that's how it was with Spider-Verse. But the added challenge of Spider-Verse that was very, very different was that we were also inventing and developing new animation tools as we were making the movie. So, you know, in addition to blowing things up, we were also kind of like, we don't know how this is gonna look. And we're working on the story, we're working on the characters, and we're kind of like having to invent things as well. So that was, I think, a really kind of new wrinkle to it that I found pretty interesting.
And Phil, we have some beef I need to talk to you about. So when I watched Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse for the first time, I didn't realize it was ending when it ended.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Very upset about it.
We tried to warn you.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, oh, 2:20's over, which is a feat in itself because anyone knows me, very anti-long movies, but this feels so easy breezy, beautiful cover girl. So at what point when you're making this, do you say to yourself, this is not a sequel, a singular sequel, we got to go big with more movies in this world? Was that, or did you know that early on?
I mean, I think about a year, 2 years ago, we realized we had, you know, we were writing 2 movies, and we had to admit it to ourselves. And basically because this film really felt like it stood on its own, and that the structure of it, even though it is a bit unusual, is something like really exciting to write and create. The thing about this movie that you guys just watched is like, Miles loses the entire movie.
Yeah.
Right? Like, people betray him, he like gets lost, and inside, he's like learning and winning. And at the very end of that movie, that speech that he gives to his mom, that he thinks is his mom, is like, I went out there and now I'm not afraid of anything. And so that to us was a thrilling idea that like a studio would let us spend this much money making a movie like that. That is really like a very unusual structure for a big audience picture. So we had to take that chance.
All right, I need someone to take the credit for this because it's my favorite shot of the movie. Mom snaps her fingers and it was a Puerto Rican flag. As a fellow Boricua, it spoke to me deeply. Who's responsible for that amazing
It was
shot?
one of our animators. Which? I'm trying to remember which animator.
None of you, I guess, then, right?
Yeah,
None of us.
It was
came
none of
out
us.
of animation.
Yeah, we encourage the animators to pitch ideas to us in a scene and kind of like add ideas, and there's a lot of like pitching to us, and I'm trying to. Was it
And
Daniel?
while
It might have been Dan.
I think it was Daniel.
I think it was Daniel, and while
Daniel
it was
Ceballos.
so Daniel Ceballos, and while it was being made, he just had this fun thing that he added, and he built it and the geometry, and he put it in the scene, and we just loved it, and it stayed, and we protected it all the way to the screen.
How many times did you show it before like an executive was like, is that the Puerto Rican flag? Or everyone knew pretty early on like, what it was? Were there any things you
The
snuck
secret
in
to
there?
this film is negligence. You know, that like if I'm an exec and I'm watching this film, I'll go like, they're just What? Go ahead, guys.
He's not here, but we have to give. I mean, there's a lot of people to give love to in this movie, but Daniel Pemberton's music score is
Incredible.
Yeah.
fire.
Yeah.
I believe it's wall-to-wall music. I don't think we have like not music in
It's tons of music. It's a like double album of score that comes out on vinyl next month. It's also
and it's under your chairs.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
I wish. It's also like a triple soundtrack of vinyl that's also coming out from Metro Booming and Friends, and like the musical texture of the film is so critical, right? And the thing about, and it needed to be as inventive as the visuals that you see. And the thing about Pemberton is he's so fun and inventive. He scratched a goose honk in this film and literally got the best like record scratcher in like the world to like scratch this goose, and we put it in the scene where like there's the goose honking. But that invention is meaningless if it's not serving the story. And he is an emotional, evocative filmmaker who's from the jump, like he's like he's in thinking about this movie before we're drawing it. And he's sending us like that, like Miguel O'Hara, like crazy sound. Like that was something that's like the first thing he came up with, and he's like, I think this is gonna be like a signature piece in the movie. And he structures it. So he's like, I can't do that here because I'm gonna do it in the fifth reel. So he's thinking holistically like a filmmaker, like everybody is. And that's what makes the score great.
All right. Again, talking about worthy artists to speak about, the entire visual effects team kills it. The production designer, the world, the multiple Spider-Men. It really is an ambitious idea. And you said it, you hinted at it before. You said, I can't believe they let us do it. And I can't believe that either. Because I don't know how you even say that to Amy Pascal in a meeting. Say, I want a bajillion Spider-Men chasing another Spider-Man for multiple minutes. But then I'm curious, what didn't make the cut? Was there something that like release the Spider-Verse cut, I'm ready for it. Like what is out there that you really wanted to have?
There were versions of Miles' talk-up when he reintroduces himself, because, newsflash, before we actually bring in the voice cast, a lot of us do the scratch voice acting, and Justin Thompson here is like the most hilarious scratch voice actor
That is true.
on our whole crew. And there was a point where we had Miles, it's a shortened version now where he's fighting all these villains and we see him hit them. But there was a version where they were like conversations, and Justin was voicing like a lot of them. There was a character called Slide who just like was greasy and just like slid off a roof. And Justin used to voice the Vulture. And and it was just that version where, I don't know, I just liked all of Justin's various villains. There was a guy called Crime Master who had no powers. And Miles
then he
just
teamed
like
up with the Wheel, and they became the Wheel of Crime.
There was a lot of them. It was just more Justin Thompson scratch was what I kind of
Justin,
missed.
I'm feeling like they held you back, man. I think there's some acting
I need to
potential.
go start my new career.
Listen, I'm going to ask because they're going to get mad at me if I don't. What's in the next one? And did you bring it with you?
We did. And here it, no.
Yeah.
Listen, we're working hard on it. The thing about this group of filmmakers is what we talk about are like relationships and character arcs and what is the last step in Miles' journey. And a lot of what we've been talking about is what does he do with the feelings at the end of this movie, which is like, you're enraged, right? You've been wronged, and how do you turn that feeling, and I think we can all relate to that feeling, into something affirmative and useful for the universe, right? And that takes a while to learn, and when you're young, you just want to like fight. And so it's really a movie about that.
Catharsis. That's the best answer of what's in the third movie.
That was some big sidestepping, man. I mean, good answer, but sure. You could just tell me what happens at the end. That's fine too. What would Chris Miller say about all of you if he was here right now?
He'd be like, I love you, Kemp.
Actually,
he fucking loves. That guy loves me.
He thinks I'm awesome too.
Justin, you can speak for Chris.
Yeah, he thinks I'm pretty awesome.
Yeah, good. That's awesome. No, here's actually the big question. We're in a room full of students and artists that want to do a lot of what you do. They want to be able to share their art with the world. They want to be able to make it to the stage. They want to sit next to me on a stage. All those different things. What piece of advice do you have for them as they go out into the world trying to share their art with everyone? And we can start with Joaquim.
Wow, it's a big one. I think sort of my method was to just try to make excellent what was directly in front of me. When you make these films, you have to think holistically and you have to think big picture, and you want your career to go to the moon and back. But I think on the day-to-day, just trying to make excellent what's in front of you will yield the results and allow you to take all those next steps.
Awesome.
I could say so many things, but I think the most important thing is, for me, it's always been that, making anything as complex as Spider-Verse or any movie it's a lot of work. So you have to remember why you loved it in the first place, because there's a lot of days when you can't remember why you're here. And you have to remember that you started this journey and why you loved it in the first place, what made you step on this path, and never forget it, and let that guide you the whole way. And then the second thing I've learned working with all of these guys on this movie is actually directing is more about listening than it is about telling people what to do, and listening to what people need from you so that you can help clarify your intent to them. So those are, your heart, follow that, but then also listen to the people around you and to help them understand your heart.
Yeah, for me, I think it's just good ideas can come from anywhere, and you have to be open to that. So I think we all have egos because we're passionate artists, but I think one of the things that's been very beneficial for me is knowing that, like, having a willingness to fight as strongly for an idea that doesn't come from you as your ideas. And sometimes they're ideas that, like, you're against, but when something is proven right and it's the best thing for the film, you got to fight for it. So I've always kind of had the attitude that all that matters is the film. You know what I mean? Not any of us individually. None of us are bigger than the film. It really is a truly collaborative effort. And I think that who's calling the shots, you can get lost in that. It's like the film is calling the shots, and you just want to make the best piece of work and be open to ideas, the best idea, wherever that idea comes from.
Before you give your answer,
Yeah.
I'm going to do a sneak attack real quick.
Okay.
You have 3 kids now, 3 grown children that are killing it. I want you to tell the audience why these 3 are some of the 3 best directors working today, and what you saw that maybe we didn't, before you give your...
There's no one more fun to lens a sequence with than Joaquim. He's just like, we would sit and edit, and we would like be goofing off with an action sequence and pitching, like, where's the camera, why is it there, like, how do we create more emotional content in this? I think he is like a virtuoso at turning physicality into story. I think Justin is one of those people that, like, every mark he makes on a piece of paper is beautiful. And because of that, he is only interested in what he hasn't done yet. He's actually not preoccupied with, like, my precious thing, because it comes so easily to him. I think he's like, what's next? And we've been making movies together for almost 20 years. And our relationship is great because we were talking about it last night, like, I will come in with an idea and he'll be like, that's cute. You've been thinking about that for 10 minutes. I've been thinking about this all day, and I'm way past you. And that to me is thrilling. Kemp is one of the most sensitive and magnetic filmmakers working today. He's an incredible writer, and he is an incredible collaborator and listener as a filmmaker. always talking up like that he is like grouchy, and I've never once experienced that, because he is simply sometimes gets passionate about how to make the movie the best it can be. And all of these people collectively would do absolutely anything to make the picture great. And the way they worked with one another is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. The way they made space for one another, they supported one another, they amplified. It was not competitive. It wasn't like, let's come up with the idea that's in the middle that like nobody, everybody's third best idea, but nobody hates it. Mm-hmm. It was like, I like that. What if we did this? Yes, great. And then it got elevated. And to like, the thing I was going to answer your larger question is like, this is a team sport. It's the most collaborative art form that there is, and animation is the most collaborative form of filmmaking. And so the thing that you guys are learning here is to make films together. It's amazing when it turns out great. That is important, but that is not the product. This film that you guys just watched is just like a conversation starter, right? Like we're just shooting like light and sound into your face at the speed of light and sound, and you guys have to tell the story in your heads. And the movie comes to life when you walk out into the lobby and you tell each other about it. The process of making the film, that's the product. You guys are learning to be artists. Art is a way of life. It is not, the results are not important. And you're going to work on stuff where you're not proud of the results. You're going to be proud of the conversation that you have with one another and the way that you basically never leave film school. You just get to talk with like geniuses like this and go like, oh my God, I went home and I'm so energized by other people's artistry. And that's the whole thing.
Mic drop.
Damn.
Guys, I'd be doing a disservice and let you talk about your two dads, Phil and Chris, and just say how it's been with working with them. And you also have the best mom in Amy Pascal. I mean, it's a very unique family, and it's been great to see. What have you loved and learned?
I have learned to never, ever let go of something. I think in the face of everybody telling you that this thing needs to be shorter, or this thing needs to get cut all together, or this thing, I think Phil and Chris have this ability to like look at the camera, have all the characters sort of acknowledge, like with a wink wink, here's the MacGuffin, here's the thing, we're gonna make you care about this thing. We're gonna turn this thing on its side. We're gonna make you feel all these range of emotions. And when anybody sort of starts getting a little squirrely, that's when they start getting excited, because something new is happening. It's been the most like scared I've ever been as a filmmaker. It's been the most exhilarating, and it's been the most humbling, because these guys truly, truly champion the crew. They champion everybody. So yeah, to me, they're like our biggest cheerleaders, and I'm happy to be their biggest cheerleader.
Well, I would have to say ditto to all of that, but then, yeah, like Phil said, we've been working together for like a long time, so I could talk forever about what I've learned from them. But one of my favorite things, just to pick one thing, and I've learned from watching and working with them, collaborating with them, is that sometimes the idea that doesn't work at first, or doesn't seem like it's going to work at first, but you feel with your whole body is the right choice, that to keep trying it and try it's so easy to go, well, this is hard, and let's just do this other thing because it would be easier, or maybe a more conventional way to approach it. The fact that they will work on something that is a hard problem, and they will, there were many times when we were making this movie that, we just struggled to make these scenes play. Like you watch it now, and like everybody's like, we're clapping and stuff, and we're really proud of it, but it didn't play for a really long time. And there were many times where we could have just said, let's just not do that. But they will keep trying and just follow their gut and follow the instinct that first led them to the project. And I think that's always been the most exciting thing about, and like you said, it's terrifying.
It's horrifying.
But it's also incredibly
I've never
fun.
been as scared. I'm telling you, there were times where I was like, guys, I'm tapping out. Like I think I'm
This
just going
doesn't
home. Yeah, this doesn't work. It's over.
I think I'm a bit of an anarchist though, so I actually get really excited. I actually get like sort of giddy, like this might not work.
He wants to sink the ship. It's great. Kemp?
Yeah, I mean, I think with brilliant artists, when you encounter brilliant artists, there's this like alchemy that's in the air. It's something that you can't be replicated. It can't be really explained. There's like an almost intangible element to it. And working with Chris and Phil, it actually reminded me of, regardless, it reminded me of a Bible verse. I'm paraphrasing here, but it's like, you are neither hot nor cold, you are lukewarm, therefore I spit you out. And nothing Phil and Chris does is lukewarm. Lukewarm is almost everything else.
Amen.
Everything is like not too hot, not too cold. They exist in the hot and they exist in the cold. And lukewarm is gone. Yeah. And there's a unique like alchemy to kind of it's where you're dealing with like really, really strong personalities, and they enjoy people who are fighters, who are like have passionate opinions, and it's honestly like engaging in debate, which is the thing that excites me the most, is having, and we'd be sitting in edit, and it would take people like, we'd have the assistants like, guys, you gotta stop talking about movies. Like we have to finish this sequence. But the thing is, the inspiration for what we're doing is coming from these seemingly inane conversations. And I don't know what it is about, a guy from Miami, Chris is from Seattle, yeah. They went to Dartmouth together, what was the unique alchemy that brought those two together? Like, but it's like, there's something, when you're dealing with like brilliant creative artists, and I feel lucky that I've been able to be around, several of them in my career. I can't put my finger on it, but it's something that excites me about, coming into work, because I'm gonna get to have a conversation and it's gonna make me a better filmmaker. And lukewarm doesn't work for me. I don't want to be a journeyman. I want to become a better filmmaker. And it was evident from the very beginning that working with these guys was going to both challenge me, and if we made it out the other end, which we luckily did, was going to make me a better filmmaker. And I'll always be like thankful to both of them for that, because I don't throw around words like brilliant and genius very often, but I really do think they're like mad geniuses. And I love being near mad geniuses. If they don't destroy you and burn you up, then you're gonna kind of get a little bit of that genius rubbed off on you too. So.
Beautifully said.
Back at you guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, the directors and producer of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Thank you to President Wallace for letting us have this. If you want to see these three guys again, come back at 5 o'clock, because we're going to do an animation panel. Phil's done, we're sending him home. But thank you so much for coming out today, guys. And make sure you tell everyone to go see the sequels sometime next year. Thanks, guys.